early in the day? Are we jumping the gun by questioning the response?
Before even the disaster happened, this has been an issue. It's just not discussed much in the press. But Ghana's readiness to deal with disasters are always very poor. And we have never learned from previous disasters. Because if you look at the many of the disasters that have happened, the responses have always been very, very poor. The Volta spillage, at least, was already something that some experts knew would happen. So we should have started preparing then to evacuate people, to find out what can be done when the disaster happened. But in this case, it was lousily looked at, and now we have the crisis at hand. So the crisis is here, the disaster is here, and the management for me is already poor. Because disasters are managed by society, led by government. And you can see the government's attitude. When the tidal wave accident happened, the last time, I think about 2 years ago, the government never got there early. I sent my NGO, and my NGO got there earlier than government. President Maham'S went there before government started attending to them. And that kind of attitude is very usual of this very government. And that is what we are seeing in Volta region today. It's pathetic that we entrusted the management of our country to a group of people with the expectation that they'll give up their best in times of need. And this is exactly how they are dealing with the disaster. So it's stretching everybody, because looking at the pictures that are coming from Volta region, they are not very good. And it's a big dent on the disaster management strategy of the government.
In fact, there are those who are of the opinion that they should have even known better, because it is understood that as far back as May 8th, they're already doing simulations for this, which means they were looking at the levels of water in the dam and realized at some point we have to spill, and we have to spill in very high quantities, that they should know better. Does it make the matter worse that at least we know that they knew ahead of time?
Sure. And those kinds of disasters are pretty easy to manage, because when you already have the warning signs, you start preparing, you start simulating some of these things, so that when the disaster happens, you already know what to do. Because this is not going to just happen without destruction. And when the destruction happens, it affects the whole country. Businesses have been lost. Lives are going to be lost. People's lives will be, plans will be truncated. And all this in aggregate will affect almost everybody in the country. So once you see the warning signs, and every organizations like VRA should have the continuity and all the recovery plans in place, so that when disasters of this nature happen, then they can attend to that. In countries where laws work, VRA could have been taken into some legal trouble for not providing for contingencies dealing with the plight of these people, because it's now a big liability on the nation, and that should have been on VRA. So VRA shares great part of the blame, but VRA is owned by government. So these are things that should make us learn. And like I said, we don't learn. Anytime things happen, we just go over it and then pray that another time it doesn't happen. But we should be ready to deal with disasters of this nature. We should have mobile trailers by now that we can really give the people some shelter. And the government should resource the disaster management organization, say that once it happens from day one, they will be in charge. This is about leadership. And you can see that leadership has gotten so impaired in Ghana that we are not making any progress, not only in the disaster management area, but almost everywhere else. But it's sad that our nation, the shining star of Africa, is gotten to this level where we can manage, prevent, we can't do anything about disasters. We just watch them happen. And the management is so poor, especially from the president. The president has not shown leadership in this regard. The job of a president is not just to deal with the economy and all that, but to be the spiritual leader of the country, giving inspiration to people, giving hope to people who are down. He lifts them up. He went to Volta region. Instead of him doing that, he was rather talking about elections. And that was the worst loose talks that the president can ever put up. He embarrassed the nation and the world, because when you go to environments like that, you need to console with the people. The people are gasping for relief and some sort of consolation. They need people to wrap their hands around them so they can feel hopeful one more time. The president went there and seriously committed one of the serious blunders, not as president, but as a human being, because this is a time he could have shown them love and, give them hope that life will be normal, and then also provide relief to them, not as president, but leading Ghana government to take charge of the relief effort.
The suggestion from his aides has been that was a light-hearted moment, that he was just perhaps maybe making a small joke to let the people for a moment forget their troubles. What do you think?
Look, for those who are defending the president, they will always defend it, no matter what, behavior he put up. Because that has become part of the bootlicking culture in our country. When the president is wrong, he's wrong. But the handlers make it look as if everything they have to defend. I don't think the president himself can defend the conduct he put up there. The symbolism is not good. When disasters of this nature happen, you even expect the international community to come in. But they see the president in the mood. It's just not what he said, but the demeanor was just so insulting to humanity and to the people of Volta region. You go to someone's funeral and then, you are laughing. How will people feel? How will people think? When he went to President Kufuor's wife's funeral, why didn't he put up that same face? It's an event that is not pleasant. So you go to Volta region, you are with the people, and sometimes I blame the people who are also around. If he has said that before Asante Hine will tell him something. Asante Hine will put up his toughness. And I expected the Togo who was there was a very nice man, because he should have reacted to that. It's a serious moment that you need to put up the kind of, represent what Ghana represents. Portray the Ghanaianness in you by being remorseful. Put up some face that will make the country know that there's something bad happening over there. But he rather chose to be that loose. You can't do that in a difficult situation where people are drowning, people cannot find basic things to survive. And that was one aspect. The government response has been very poor in most of the disasters that happen in the country. So it looks like the current government is just not incompetent in management of the economy, in running. They are very good at running down everything. And now disasters are on the table. If you do the assessment, out of 100, you just give them somewhere around 50. That's very, very abysmal in performance.
But when you listen to the president, because before he said those words, he was also talking about trying to help and everything. Did he disclose something close to a plan, a response plan in the wake of the disaster? When you listen to him, did you hear a plan?
Usually, before even the president gets there, the NADMO should be there. They should put a lot of, because the president is not just a human being. Presidency is a combination of things. And the president is supposed to be powerful. He controls everything. So by the time he gets there, certain things are already done to deal with the situation of the victims. He goes there to add up, look at the situation and say, look, the government will do AYBZ to help the people to add up to what we have done already. But in this case, he got there and was just lousily throwing out words. And I know most of the things he said will not happen. The people need blankets, they need a lot of things. The private sector is willing to do a lot. And I think most organizations and people are already helping the people in the Volta region. And he should be the center of, encouragement for people to continue to help. The tone was bad, and also the effort to get these people the help they need is so poor. And that should be one of the issues we should put on the table in next year's election, because we can have government that consistently put up, very low effort when it comes to this thing. Jay Rawlings, when he was president, will physically go there and be with the people. Sometimes you see him in water. It's not that he can stop what is going on, but it's symbolism. And President Maham'S did similar. When it happened, he ran there to give the people comfort, to make them feel that, look, the big men are looking after us. And that gave them hope. But President Akufo-Addo has proven to be a disaster in almost every area. The other day, they were talking about corruption. He was laughing. Some issues, you can't do that. Age is not an excuse. The more you deal with this, the presidency is a very sacred job with responsibilities that, must inspire others, must make others feel that someone is in charge, someone is leading them, someone is setting the examples.
Be that as it may, we have NADMO, Bali Resource, putting in their best. You have the 48th Engineer Regiment of the Ghana Army putting in its best. We have MPs who are rallying people to try and see what they can raise to support. The people themselves in the communities are seeing how they can help others get through it. Is that a spirit that at least we can rely on and see how we can salvage a better response to this?
Naturally, Ghanaians are very helpful to each other. And this culture is something government can tap into to promote doing goodness when things like this happen. Now, if you don't invest in the future, and our investment is all about the Japanese cars that we drive on our street, dealing with procurements, that's what government is interested in. The government must set the tone and encourage all the people who are doing their best. I know now the MPs, like you said, are on their feet trying to help the people. The communities around who are not affected are also trying to give whatever they have. And it's a culture. Development for me is not just the buildings, the money that we have in bank accounts in our country. It's about the culture, the way we live. In the US, I had fire some time ago. And it wasn't government that was to my support. All the people, even in the little town that we were in, anywhere you go, they give you the things free. That's how human beings behave. And it should be a culture. And the government, the president should be leading it. It should be the person even calling on some of these organizations to come to the rescue of the people. And people will feel good about it. Now, basic things we cannot just invest in. If you look at many countries, you have the trailers. And the trailers are moved. In America here, when there's a disaster, within few minutes, they move you into a trailer somewhere. That is the first thing that is done because the disaster has happened already. Deal with the people, make them feel comfortable so that they begin to deal with their grief. And then you move it to the next level. So president needed to provide leadership to encourage people to get involved in the relief effort and try to give their best. Look, when tidal accident happened and I sent my NGO there, the volunteers, some of them went there. We donated clothes to them, but they took their own clothes when they saw the people and gave that to them. Because it is human nature. People should always do their best to help their neighbors in times like this.
But what do we need to do to salvage the response, at least, in the interim?
In the interim, what they need to do is that, you see, people should continue what they are doing. The communities surrounding the area should volunteer to accommodate some of these people, to, make sure that the people situations are dealt with. Then we begin to look at the technical part of it. What do we do to prevent disasters of this nature from happening? So we should spend a great deal of time, put our engineers together. This doesn't need IMF. This doesn't need the new law. It's our local situation. Let us find out what we can do to prevent future spillages. And also we must have a unit. I don't know whether under the public works to be looking at some of these things, to just do compliance and quality, our bridges, whatever we build, they should be inspecting it to make sure that they are in order so that we can prevent disasters. Sometimes the prevention can save us all the situations. Because when the situation doesn't happen, then you don't have to deal with all these inefficiencies. So we can invest some time to begin to provide proaction, actions that can really prevent some of these things from happening. Because when you prevent, it's always better than letting it happen and then you have to run around and fix. So we should be proactive. Let's set up a unit. This is when the call should be made for us to add value to our government. And one of the jobs of government is to deal with situations like this, to also be proactive so that they can regulate how some of these facilities are managed. So VRA should look seriously into what happened, and they should even set up a committee to deal with this, to find out what happened and how future disasters can be prevented.
And let me conclude by then asking you, this is former President Maham'S thought 21 hours ago. It is clear that the scope and scale of the flooding of communities along the Volta River is bigger than our crippled economy can bear. I recommend to government to declare a state of emergency in the affected areas and request relief assistance from our bilateral and multilateral partners immediately. Do you agree?
I do. And you see, in disaster management, you need to create a alert system. Whenever you declare the state of emergency, it must be in grades. You see, when it's severe, that means that government will put in more money. The economy is already so decimated, like he said. Government cannot do that much. But what we can do, I always think we need to plan towards the future. Because the economy today is almost gone. You have 5 banks that have recorded losses in the second quarter. And then everything seems to be going down. So the government capacity, financial-wise, is weakened. But they should mount an aggressive effort to get support from, wherever they can. And the social media is doing well because the whole world are actually saying what is going on in Ghana. They should tap into it, use the embassies. Wherever they can find help, they should solicit it, mobilize it, and try to help these people. Because it's the government's responsibility to do that. if not to provide, but to lead the effort. The private sector must be organized. We must create disaster funds that allow even private organizations to contribute to the fund. So I think President Mahama got it right, and he was just speaking for most of us who are rational.